The latest in Boulder with my man Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs, joining me here on Locked On College Football. Kevin, last year the offensive line was the biggest problem for Colorado. They've got the skill positions mostly figured out: quarterback, receiver, corner, one of which is the same guy, of course, in Travis Hunter. But going into spring football here for Colorado, what is the biggest priority for Deion Sanders and company?
Yeah, I think just building continuity. Last year, I went to the spring game, and there was just kind of this consensus where 90% of the guys I was watching were not going to be on the team in a few weeks. And so they have majority of the dudes that are going to be on the team, so they need to build that connection. I know a lot of people get on me all the time for saying the offense line doesn't need to have a relationship or whatever, but they do. They got 5 new guys. Realistically, no one from last year will be starting on the offensive line, so they need to build continuity. And then they just need depth at a lot of positions, or they need to establish that depth. And I think they have it. It's just figuring out who goes where and when.
Along that offensive line, 5 new starters. I hear that, and it gives me pause. Now, I did look at Colorado's win total once upon a time, see 4.5, and say, over. And then I'm not saying it's the power of Locked On College Football. I'm just saying that after that happened multiple times on the show, the win total was moved to 5.5. If they're going over that and therefore making a bowl game, you can't have the same offensive line play as last year. It's got to be better. So as the Buffs and their coaching staff, which has also had some reshuffling this offseason, approach spring practice, what are they looking for? Are they trying to find starters? Are they just trying to establish continuity with the guys that everyone pretty much agrees, yeah, this is going to be the starting unit?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think realistically, you kind of know all these guys that come in. You don't bring in a Big Ten transfer who started multiple years, and he's not coming in to sit. You don't bring in one of the top offensive lineman transfers in the portal and Justin Mares from UTEP. He's not coming to sit either. So there's Jordan Seaton, 5-star from IMG. He's not coming to sit. Like, all these guys are there ready to start. I think there's like 1 or 2 positions kind of up for grabs. Like, I would say right tackle is the one that I'd look out for. And then maybe center is another one where there's a position battle. But for the most part, they kind of know or have an idea who's going to be starting, or at least they will. And it's just kind of building that connection. Realistically, they just have to be average, which is like the bare minimum for you never want to be average in anything. But when you look at how bad the offensive line was last year, just be average, and this team will be worlds and beyonds better than what they were.
Yeah, I mean, average, I think, has a bad moniker because it implies that you're not striving to be great. But if USC had an average defense last year, they would have won at least 8, probably 9 or 10 games. If Colorado had an average offensive line, they're probably a bowl team. So average is not always the worst thing in the world. But a guy who's definitely not average is Shedeur Sanders. Burst on the scene coming over from Jackson State last year and was one of the leading passers in all of college football through the first couple of weeks. And then, the shortcomings of that Colorado roster came to fruition a little bit. But Sanders' talent is undeniable. He's an NFL sort of guy. Let's say he has average protection, which to him is going to feel like just this wondrous world with rainbows and ponies and everything of the sort. When you think about what he's bringing to the table and the weapons he's got, what are your expectations for him going into spring ball?
Yeah, last year he broke records with the poor offensive line, and what we learned was an offensive system he did not like. He kind of made it seem that Sean Lewis's offense was predicated on wide receivers running a lot of choice routes, which means a lot of the things were out of his hands. So going into 2024, I expect him to have better protection, which we obviously know kind of affected his play, his health. And he's also going to be in an offense that I think is better tailored to his game. So it's kind of crazy to think that those 2 factors were kind of holding him back last season, and he still threw 27 touchdowns and 3 picks. So I imagine he's going to hit that 35 touchdown threshold as long as he continues to protect the ball and not kind of get into predicaments at times where he's trying to do too much. I think he could put up some astronomical numbers that kind of shock some people because I think there's a lot of like, how much higher can he go? But realistically, when you factor in how bad the offensive line was, and he didn't like the system. So if you factor that in as well, I feel like he's due for a bigger year, which is kind of crazy to say.
The Buffs coaching staff has got some new faces there, but certainly that's not the only area. A lot of transfers, and that's really the essential part of roster building in the eyes of Deion Sanders. I mean, they are out-recruited by a group of 5 schools at the high school ranks, but that doesn't give them one of the least talented rosters in the Big 12. I don't know that it's the most talented, but certainly I think it's closer towards the top than it is the bottom. But when you talk about newcomers in Shedeur Sanders, everyone knows he's going to be throwing the football to Travis Hunter. I don't think that's a big mystery for defensive coordinators or college football fans anywhere across the land. But who else has to play a part in this Colorado offense? Maybe someone that you're looking for in spring football to showcase, okay, this guy's clearly the number 2 receiver, the number 2 target for Colorado.
Yeah, I love that question. And there's like a big kind of discussion and talk about this in the Colorado community. And everyone is looking at Florida Atlantic wide receiver LeJontay Wester. So everyone remembers Jimmy Horn Jr. from USF. He was kind of like the guy in spring. And then Xavier Weaver also came over from USF and kind of surpassed Jimmy and was kind of up there with Travis as Shedeur's favorite target. Early on in spring, there's a lot of buzz and a lot of people around the program think that he could steal Jimmy Horn's starting spot out of the slot. He's faster than him. He's as sure-handed as it gets. He had 108 catches last season with guys like Casey Thompson and Daniel Richardson throwing him the ball. So imagine what he could do with really good or even great quarterback play. So I would go LeJontay Wester. And then they also brought in Will Sheppard from Vanderbilt, who is 6'4", and he's massive. And they had some little dropsies issues last season at Vanderbilt, but he still put up over 1,000 yards in the SEC. And I think once he gets to campus, he will be someone that will kind of carve out. You can't keep that size and speed off the field. You just can't.
Kevin, you ever see Moneyball, the movie?
I love Moneyball.
One of the greatest movies of all time. Billy Beane, portrayed, of course, by the great Brad Pitt, one of my favorite actors, has a line in which he's talking about how the Oakland A's are a feeder system for the New York Yankees. Well, tragically, cover your ears, Vanderbilt fans, that's the way it feels sometimes for the Commodores football program, because you think about Vanderbilt football and you go, oh man, they can't win it. I mean, since James Franklin left, it just hasn't been the same, which is absolutely true. They haven't really sniffed the top 25 since he departed, but they have had some supremely talented players. So if you're listening or watching and you think, well, bringing a guy from Vanderbilt, what could that possibly mean? Do not sleep on him, because that's a guy that I think I don't know that he could push Travis Hunter to be the leading receiver, because that chemistry is already ingrained. But I think as the season goes on, I think he could I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and I want your thoughts here, that each of those top 2 receivers for the Buffs could have a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. And whenever we talk about Travis Hunter, I want to put this out there, and I'll speak for Spencer on this one occasion. We're never talking about Travis Hunter losing his job. We're just talking about Travis Hunter maybe seeing a smaller role to help preserve him. Me and Spencer are both in the camp of, I think, where we need to maximize Travis Hunter. And I don't know if playing him 24/7, 365 days a year is like the best way to do it. And so Will Sheppard is one of those guys where he's reliable, he's a big target, and he's someone that Shedeur can rely on. Also want to shout out Omarion Miller, who was the guy that exploded against USC.
Big time.
Yeah, the new wide receivers coach said he's falling in love with him. So I think that's something worth noting. He's there right now, and Will Sheppard is not. So he could kind of get that edge over Will Sheppard.
If you've got Travis Hunter, Omarion Miller, and Will Sheppard as your top 3 receivers,
right?
How many Big 12 teams can go toe-to-toe with those 3 guys? I mean, seriously, that can't be worse.
Big 12, 0. Maybe the Big 12s of the past, 3, counting Oklahoma and Texas. But I don't think there's a single Big 12 team, at least I don't want to discredit anybody, but I don't think there's a team out there that is matching up with them.
That could be a fascinating question, but I mean, going 3 deep like that those are just, you got the young guy and Omarion Miller with just tremendous upside and potential and possibility, and also some proven production. Everyone knows what Travis Hunter can do, and then you have a 1,000-yard receiver at the Power 5 level from last year. That's a pretty.
He was like second in the country in catches.
Yeah, that's tough to beat. Real quick, Kevin, let's get you out of here on this new defensive staff. What are the expectations?
The expectations are they need to stop the run. They need to be better in the secondary. Robert Livingston doesn't have any defensive coordinator experience, but he is a safeties coach. So that secondary should be pretty locked down. You have Deion Sanders and someone who has NFL experience as a secondaries coach. So I expect that unit to be on their P's and Q's, dotting their I's and crossing their T's nonstop. In terms of stopping the run, they just need big bodies to make plays. And that sounds simple, and I'm not trying to make defense sound stupid, but realistically, everyone ran the ball down their throats last season. That was their biggest weakness. If they cannot stop the run, which I'm looking at the linebacker group as their weakest group right now, if they can't stop the run or help stop the run, it could be another long year, and it's going to be like a typical Big 12 team where it's like, we need 50 points to win. We need 40 to stay in the game. That's what it will be if the defense doesn't live up to the expectations of stopping the run and kind of taking away the big plays.
Would not have it any other way over in the good old Big 12. Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Is UCF the best Group of 5 new team in the Big 12 to pop next year? We'll answer that question next.